Ferrari did not triple its engine power. It may have done something even more dangerous. Vasseur turned Ferrari's biggest weakness into a legal weapon. The FIA's ADUO framework gave Ferrari extra upgrade opportunities because its engine was behind the benchmark. And now, before Austria, Ferrari is using that opening to bring a new power unit step, a revised shell fuel blend, and a second aerodynamic package. The first gain may only be around 5 horsepower, but the full target across the season is around 30. That is the number rivals cannot ignore, because Hamilton already won in red before the full plan arrived. Antonelli's lead has already dropped from 66 points to 41. Mercedes has reliability scars. Red Bull's power advantage is being hunted, and McLaren is suddenly trapped in the middle of Ferrari's rise. So no, Ferrari did not triple the engine. They may have tripled the fear. Because if Austria is only the first step, then the real Ferrari attack is still coming. Subscribe to the channel. Ferrari's rivals wanted the headline to be wrong. They wanted to hear the words, Ferrari tripled their engine power, and immediately dismiss the entire story as exaggeration. Because that would be easy. That would be comfortable. That would allow Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, and every team watching from the pit lane to say the same thing. Nothing real has changed. But that is exactly where the danger begins. Because Ferrari did not need to literally triple the engine to change the championship. They only needed to change the meaning of their weakness. And that is what Vasseur has done. At the beginning of the season, Ferrari's engine deficit looked like a wound. It was the kind of problem rivals could build confidence around. Red Bull could look at its benchmark power unit and feel protected. Mercedes could rely on its own overall strength. McLaren could believe Ferrari was still close enough to fight, but not complete enough to fear every weekend. Ferrari was fast in moments, but moments do not win championships. Consistency does. Execution does. Development does. And Ferrari still had too many questions around all three. Australia made that clear. Ferrari had speed, but strategy hurt them. Energy management was not perfect. The team missed chances under virtual safety car conditions, and instead of leaving the first race looking like a polished threat, they left looking like a team still trying to control itself. That was the Ferrari rivals wanted. Fast but flawed. Ambitious but messy. Emotional but not yet clinical. And for a while, that version of Ferrari made every rival feel safer. Because a flawed Ferrari can scare you on Saturday, then help you on Sunday. A flawed Ferrari can produce a brilliant lap, then lose the race through execution. A flawed Ferrari can bring hope, but not enough certainty to build a title charge. But Vasseur's change before Austria is dangerous because it attacks that comfort directly. He has not simply added a part to the car. He has turned Ferrari's power unit deficit into a development route. That is the twist every rival team understands. Under the ADUO framework, Ferrari qualified for additional development opportunities because its internal combustion engine was officially far enough behind the benchmark. On paper, that sounds like a weakness. But under these rules, weakness creates permission. Permission to recover. Permission to upgrade. Permission to chase. And in Formula One, legal permission is sometimes more valuable than raw frustration. Because rivals cannot protest the idea away. They cannot simply say Ferrari is cheating. They cannot ask the FIA to remove a mechanism everyone knew existed. They may dislike what it gives Ferrari, but the answer has to come on track. That is why the paddock is nervous. Ferrari is not breaking the system. Ferrari is using it, and Vasseur appears to be using it with timing. Austria is not the full hit. That matters. The first power unit step is expected to bring around 5 horsepower, helped by combustion changes and a revised shell fuel blend. By itself, that number does not sound like the kind of thing that should make the grid panic. But numbers in Formula One are never isolated. 5 horsepower matters differently depending on where it arrives, when it arrives, and what arrives with it. 5 horsepower with no aero improvement can be contained. 5 horsepower with no driver momentum can be dismissed. 5 horsepower with a confused team can become just another promise. But 5 horsepower with Ferrari's second aerodynamic package, a unique rotating rear wing concept, Hamilton's first win in red, and a larger Monza step still waiting, becomes something else entirely. It becomes the start of a campaign, and campaigns are what rivals fear. A single upgrade weekend can be survived. A team can say they improved here, but maybe it was track-specific. Maybe the setup window helped. Maybe the race came to them. Maybe the next circuit will expose them again. But a campaign is different. A campaign has stages. Barcelona gave Ferrari belief. Austria gives Ferrari the first technical strike. Monza waits with the bigger shadow. That sequence is what makes Vasseur's plan feel so serious. Because if Austria works, the question is not, can Ferrari be strong this weekend? The question becomes, how strong will Ferrari be when the full plan lands? That is why rivals cannot simply laugh at the phrase, tripled engine power. The literal claim is wrong, but the fear behind it is real. Ferrari has multiplied the pressure. It has multiplied the uncertainty. It has multiplied the number of ways rivals must now think about the red car. Power unit recovery, fuel development, aerodynamic changes, rear wing efficiency, Hamilton momentum, Leclerc's qualifying threat. A bigger upgrade still ahead. That is a lot to manage. And every rival has its own reason to worry. For Mercedes, the fear is Hamilton. Not just Hamilton as a name. Hamilton as a pressure machine. Hamilton as the former Mercedes champion who knows exactly how to make a rival uncomfortable. Hamilton as the driver who just won in Barcelona and cut Antonelli's championship lead from 66 points to 41. That gap is still real, but it no longer feels untouchable, especially when Mercedes has reliability scars. A championship leader with reliability problems is vulnerable in a different way from a slow team. A slow team can be beaten directly. A vulnerable leader has pace, but carries fear. It wants to win, but also needs to survive. It wants to push, but also protect. It wants to race freely, but every failure makes caution louder. Ferrari can attack that. If the Austrian step brings Hamilton even slightly closer, Mercedes has to defend more. If Mercedes defends more, the car is pushed harder. If the car is pushed harder, reliability questions become more uncomfortable. And if Mercedes becomes cautious, Hamilton attacks. That is the loop Ferrari wants. Not because 5 horsepower destroys Mercedes. Because 5 horsepower might be enough to remove Mercedes' breathing room. And breathing room is what a team with reliability concerns needs most. For Red Bull, the fear is different. Red Bull's power unit benchmark has been a source of strength. Ferrari's ADUO eligibility exists because Ferrari was behind that benchmark. But the moment Ferrari begins recovering legally, Red Bull has to think about erosion. Not collapse. Erosion. The advantage shrinking little by little. The gap becoming less safe. The straight line comfort fading. The rival that was once clearly behind starting to appear closer in the data. That kind of erosion is difficult to fight emotionally because it does not always happen in one dramatic leap. It happens through repeated signs. A better speed trap. A stronger sector. A closer race pace. A driver who stays with you for longer than expected. Then suddenly, the advantage that felt structural becomes contested. That is what Red Bull will watch in Austria. Not just whether Ferrari wins. Whether Ferrari's power recovery looks real. Because if it does, Monza becomes a much bigger problem. For McLaren, the fear is being squeezed. McLaren does not need Ferrari to dominate to feel the pain. If Ferrari moves forward while Mercedes and Red Bull remain strong, McLaren's operating space shrinks. Qualifying becomes more punishing. Strategy windows become narrower. Podium chances become harder to reach. A car that could fight in open air may suddenly spend more time reacting to red cars ahead or behind. That is how a rising Ferrari affects the whole front group. It changes everyone's race. Even teams that do not see Ferrari as the direct title favorite must respond if Ferrari changes the pace reference. That is why Vasseur's changes matter beyond Maranello. They are not only about making Ferrari better. They are about making everyone else less comfortable. And that is the signature of a dangerous upgrade. The best upgrades do not simply improve your lap time. They change what rivals have to do. They force setup compromises. They force strategy reactions. They force drivers to defend earlier. They force team principals to answer questions they hoped would not come until later. Ferrari is trying to force those questions now. Before Monza. Before the bigger step. Before rivals have fully decided what Ferrari's ceiling is. That uncertainty is a weapon. Because the grid does not know how far this goes. They know Austria is expected to be the smaller step. They know the wider target is around 30 horsepower across the development path. They know Ferrari has a second aerodynamic package. They know the SF26 has a unique rotating rear wing. They know Hamilton just won. They know Leclerc is still dangerous. But they do not know how these things combine. And that is where fear lives. If the engine step helps straight line speed, and the aero package improves balance, and the fuel blend helps efficiency, and Hamilton is now fully alive in the Ferrari system, then the effect could be much larger than one isolated number suggests. That is what rivals cannot calculate perfectly before the race. They can simulate, they can estimate, they can compare historical data, but they cannot know until the car runs. And when rivals cannot know, they overthink. They study speed traps. They study sector deltas. They watch tire degradation. They watch radio messages. They watch how the rear wing behaves on the straights. They watch Hamilton's long-run pace. They watch Leclerc's first qualifying push. They watch whether Ferrari looks calm or desperate. That attention alone tells you the upgrade is serious. Teams do not obsess over harmless changes. They obsess over threats. And Ferrari has become a threat because the story has shifted from weakness to recovery. That is the key emotional transformation. Earlier in the year, Ferrari's deficit was something rivals could mock. Now it is something rivals must track. Earlier, Ferrari's power issue helped explain why they were not the complete package. Now the ADUO route gives them a structured way to attack that exact limitation. Earlier, Hamilton's Ferrari move was historic but uncertain. Now he has already won. Earlier, Antonelli's lead looked stronger. Now it has been cut. Earlier, Monza was just another future race. Now Monza looks like the place where Ferrari may deliver the bigger blow. That is how Vasseur has changed the story. He has made Ferrari's future more frightening than its present. And that is sometimes the most powerful thing a team can do. Because if rivals fear what you may become, they start reacting before you have fully become it. Mercedes may adjust how aggressively it races Hamilton. Red Bull may push harder to protect its benchmark advantage. McLaren may feel pressure to accelerate development. Every team starts thinking about Ferrari not as a current problem, but as a growing one. That creates mistakes, rushed upgrades, compromised setups, defensive strategy calls, overprotective race management, drivers being warned too early, teams watching the wrong rival at the wrong moment. Ferrari can benefit from all of that. That is why this is more than a technical story. It is psychological. Vasseur's real change may be that he has turned Ferrari from a team people expected to disappoint into a team people are afraid might be arriving. And for Ferrari, that matters.